Thank you for joining Garland and I for today's episode of Work Life Unraveled, where we tackle topics like the word of the year for 2025. We talk about some of our favorite traditions, the color of the year going into 2025, and some of the funny words that have been suggested by the various different dictionaries across the world for the year that we just lived through, 2024. Let's get into it, and thanks for joining us on Work Life Unraveled with Garland and Allison. Welcome, everyone, to the end of 2024 edition of Unraveled with Garland and Allison. We are so happy to have you here today, where we are going to do a little deep dive into New Year's trends for 2025, some things that we learned in 2024, and our process for moving the ball forward at the end of the year.
Yes, because we're evolving, always evolving.
always evolving. And I think maybe a good place to start is to kind of look back a little bit at 2024 and maybe like a personal year in review, maybe for you, Garland. I want to make sure that our listeners and our viewers know a little bit about us. So maybe tell me a little bit about what happened in your life in 2024.
Yes. So every year I pick a word, and we're going to talk about words later, but my 2024 word was experimentation. Coming out of 2023, I was laid off and I felt like I had a death in the family. It was just like all the things that I think lead to introspection, the things that lead to what am I doing, existential with my life crisis stuff. And so I wanted 2024 to be my year of like, what would happen if you just give yourself a breath and a break to figure out what's next for you, try some things, be in the lab, so to speak, and just do some different things just to see what is speaking to you. I am always, leaving one job, going to another, looking for another. That's like been my, I'd say, track record. And so I actually had some time and space to just not do that, and thought I'm going to take this time to like sabbatical this a little bit or just see what happens. And so I started I got on TikTok and I was like, let me just get over my fear of doing video and being in my face in the world. There's something about visibility that's just, it's hard. I don't know. I have no problem talking to people. Something about putting your face on a video, it just feels like very public. And so I feel like I conquered my fear by doing TikToks, which sounds insane, but honestly, I strongly recommend it for anyone. Just do it. I think you then realize it's all in your head and you really don't have anybody judging you other than you. And oftentimes it becomes something fun. It's just keep it fun, keep it light. So that, I think, started that. I've been a part of this organization called AREP LA, the African American Real Estate Professionals of Los Angeles. This organization, I think, has given me a runway to be more of myself. I've always been in people, recruiting, talent operations, that kind of stuff. And it's always been very corporate. We've got a goal, we've got a KPI, we've got a project, like something that you have to get something towards. But having the space in this organization to make it more, I don't want to say fun, but like there's no you have to do anything. It's you're making yourself do it. And so I've had an opportunity to grow with this organization and to grow this organization in the past 4 years. And it just started to, I think, within me, I started realizing I like doing this. Like, I don't even have to, you don't have to pay me to do this. Like, I don't have to think about this. This is like who I am. Why can't I just keep doing more of this? Like, this is actually the stuff that lights me up in the day and makes me excited. And so I was like, I need to find out a way to do more of this. And so that started me on my journey of like, what if you were to create your own community? What if you were to bring a podcast back where this is the focus? What if you wanted to amplify these types of organizations and do this kind of work in a larger scale? What could that look like? And so the evolution of just getting to this place, I feel like it's been a journey. It didn't, I think, initially come to me as something I should be doing,
Mhm.
because when you do things easily, and when I coach students, clients, when it's your strength, you don't think about it as a strength. You just think,
Yeah.
oh, it's just easy for me. This is normal. I think this is fun. But
Mhm.
you come to realize when other people are like, you're really good at this, or
Mhm.
you've helped me so much with this, or oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was something we needed. And you're just like, yeah, this is like easy for me. So I have realized this is my sweet spot. This is my Garland magic. This is what makes me feel fulfilled, and also other people enjoy it. And so why not make this who you want to be in the world, and share it with other people? So 2024 for me has just been like a realization of expansion, but the experimentation, that word, I
Mhm.
think having an opportunity to tap and dabble in different things has helped me realize, like, this is what you need to be doing next. So
Yeah.
we're going to pass it to you.
Well, first, it's just been so cool as your friend to watch you go through this transformation and have these aha moments. And you are the other end of aha moments for so many different people, me included. So it's cool to see you have your own aha moment and step into the spotlight and do some things that are creative and different and exciting, that are all your own and not someone else's. So kudos to you. It's really cool and fun to watch as your friend. And I know too, 2025 is going to be even bigger, which is such an exciting thing. But my 2024, I had kind of two words. I had recovery, because I had a hard 2023 as it related to health, um, all different kinds of health. And so for me, I was really wanting to start to understand what was happening to my body, what was happening to make me feel the way that I was feeling. And I found out that I was gluten intolerant, which is a big thing to learn. And that kind of changed my whole life in terms of what I ate, because I have been a vegetarian since the year 2000. And so I had kind of supplemented, I think, maybe the lack of protein or less protein in my diet with lots of carbohydrates. And so that was probably why I wasn't feeling so great. And so that was great to take care of that. The other word beyond recovery was redemption, because I felt like I had started my business out of a place in my life that was really chaotic, and it was really about survival. It was about me not knowing what was going to happen next, but knowing that I didn't have a safety net. I didn't have, an extra income or people to rely upon other than myself. And I had no plan B. I just had to make it work. And so I think 5 years into that business now, it's interesting, because the things that got me to this point in my business won't get me to the next 5 years in my business, right? That idea of survival and hustle and grind, although still I will continue to work hard. I think my focus now is thinking about my impact and how I can scale my impact, as opposed to having a lot of one-off, one-on-one conversations. That thinking about bigger platforms, thinking about doing more speaking, thinking about also women's voices and how we can amplify them. That was a interesting culmination of, I think, a life of feeling like, as someone who has always worked in male dominated industries, that there were not enough women on stages. There were not enough women in the media. The focus really seemed to be, let's give the microphone to these people that we know and have heard from before. And so you don't see a lot of newcomers. Here and there, you'll start to see, maybe someone break into panels and keynotes and things like that. But it was fewer and farther in between, and it was very rarely women. And my friend Delee happened to just post a post on Twitter about how she was one of 14 speakers at a one-day event in her town, and it was commercial real estate focused, and she was the only woman of 14. And because I'm bad at math, I said, I know that's a terrible number. Let me see how exactly terrible it is. And it ended up being 7%. So 7% of the speakers on that particular stage were women. And I know the market that she's in. I know there are lots of talented women. I know several. And so that for me made me feel a non-productive way from posting on the internet. And I thought I better just take a seat and think about this a little more and figure out what I want to do about it. And the next time I went to go post something on LinkedIn, I thought, I was kind of drawing a blank. I was like, what do I want to talk about? And I was like, the question that I ask myself when I don't know what I want to talk about is what made me feel something recently? And I thought immediately about Dalee's post, and I was like, this is the thing. This is the thing. And what is the biggest, I guess, response that I have heard from people when I say to maybe a conference organizer or a friend or colleague, there's just not enough women on the stage? Well, there's not a lot of women in our industry. That's the response. And Garland, it's also the response you and I know when there are not enough diverse applicants. Well, there's not enough diverse people in commercial real estate. Those things are less and less true every single day, thank goodness, because we're working on them and we're, trying to attract more women and more diverse folks into our business. But it's not a supply issue. And that's what I wanted to do, was get rid of that excuse, because it's the most frustrating thing for me to hear. I know it's not true. I think we all tend to live in our own little bubbles. My bubble happens to be diverse, your bubble happens to be diverse, but we chose that intentionally. And there's just a lot of people out there whose bubbles might not grow after they graduate college or go to their first job or whatever. And so I thought, can we create this list of phenomenal women speakers in commercial real estate so we can once and for all say it's not a supply issue? Here's women around the country. And so that's been a big, big thing to work on this year. And it's something that's very exciting. And I have a lot of help from other women. We've just got our brand identity done. We are working on our website. So that has been a really cool thing for me to feel like I am coming to a full circle moment, because the first 5 years of my career in commercial real estate, I really felt like my voice was taken away. And for the next 5 years in commercial real estate, to feel like I'm going to help more and more women share their stories. And that just to me is like a really powerful thing. And I'm super, super excited for 2025, because I think there's so much more in store for me and my story and you and your story and everyone. I think it's every time we turn the page, I just love a new year, because I love a fresh start. I love a new chapter. I love deciding who I want to be moving forward and being really intentional.
Yeah, when I hear the word redemption, I think about that Bob Marley song, Redemption.
Love that song.
Yeah, Songs of Freedom. And so I think
Yes.
the fact that that was your word this year really speaks to you setting your voice free, your heart free to do what you want to do on your own terms in a way that makes you just shine, makes you feel good. So I feel like you have captured this, you captured the word this year. You have captured
Thank
the
you.
word.
Thank you. I think you did too. And I think too, like we have embodied these words, and now it's time to pick our words, right? For 2025. Do you want to talk about that? Have you circled a word yet, or are
You
you still
haven't
working?
circled the word. I feel like
Okay.
it usually comes like you just wake up and you're like,
Yes.
this is it. This is the
Yes.
word. This is the feeling. And so it usually comes most of these times it's you're standing in the shower or you're
Yes.
like driving and then it just like comes. It's usually not when you're doing anything really serious that it shows up. So I'm going to hope that over some time, just doing some random nothingness things, it'll show up. But
Mm.
I do feel like it's going to be a powerful word because the words have meaning, and
Yes.
also just that's the energy that you bring to it, and for me, it becomes a litmus of every time something happens. It's like, okay, how does this relate to the word that you are trying to embody this year, or that you are actively keeping in the center of what you do? And so when things get hard, like for me doing this TikTok thing, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, do I have to do another one today? I have
You're
nothing.
so good at it, though. From the
And
outside looking in, it's been
and
a
then I
cool
was
thing to
like,
watch.
experimentation. You said you're going to experiment. Like you have to do it. Like you have to do it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I would just be like, okay, what am I going to do today? All right. All right. Let me do something. Okay. What's happening? So
Mm-hmm.
I just, it's also a motivator, or at least it
Yes.
forces me to remind myself why I said I was going to do something. So that's what I've realized. I have to pick a word that it's like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny because I was thinking about words for 2025, and I don't know that I'm exactly there yet. I kind of am on this kick of transformation, and I've got this butterfly hat, and I think all the time about the analogy of the caterpillar going into the chrysalis and turning into goo, and then, staying there and hibernating for a little while it transforms, and then coming out of the other side of that. I think there's maybe some truth to that with some of the personal projects that I'm working on, like the land, and that's something too we can talk about now or later. But that one I think is pulling me a little bit. I'm not quite sure yet. One of the things I do like is your idea of personal accountability to the word. And I think about one of the things that works for me is public accountability to the word. For instance, a few years ago, I decided I wanted to run a half marathon, and I'm not a runner at all. I wound up running the PV half marathon, which, if you know Palos Verdes in Los Angeles, you know that it is up and down hills. It was brutal, but thankfully I had told the internet and I had told my colleagues that I was going to do it. And so I had no way out of that. And I wasn't going to break that commitment to myself, and also to open myself up for any jokes from colleagues or anything like that. So I want to pick something, and then I think I want to declare it because I want to embody it. I want people to feel it when they're talking to me and interacting with me, and I want to really manifest that into my life. So I think it might be transformation. The more I'm talking about it, I'm talking myself into it a little bit. But we will also have in the show notes a link to a bunch of different words, just in case you have a hard time picking out of the ether or on the blank page, so that might help some people as they pick their own words.
Yeah. And I want to just say the word came for me from not wanting to do resolutions. I think resolutions can sometimes feel very overwhelming or just rigid.
Yes.
And so I am more, I think I've been doing words for a while now because I just feel like there's an expansiveness to it. There's also just you're focused on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not, I got to work out. I got to eat. I got to do it.
Yes.
There's like all of these things that we put ourselves through to be
Yes.
better people. Whereas
Yes.
for me on the word, it's like, okay, how does experimentation show up in all
Yeah.
of the things versus just, I got to do all these things.
Yeah. I think that's right, because I know the statistics. I don't know the exact statistic on how often New Year's resolutions fail, but I mean, in my personal life, it's been pretty abysmal in terms of my resolutions. In fact, the biggest one that I can think of was when I decided I'd be a vegetarian on January 1st, 2000. And that's the longest, candidly, I've committed to anything in my entire life. But I do think that word leaves you the room to change your mind, to interpret things a little bit differently. I do think sometimes I've decided something at the beginning of the year when I'm a totally different person already 6 months into the new year. And then all of a sudden it feels like, well, this is what I've got to do, even though it no longer really reflects who I am or what my goals are anymore. So
Yeah.
very good point.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So do we want to talk about some of the dictionary words that have been put out so far for, I think, 2024, and I guess given where we are at the end of the year now?
Yeah, I love it. Some of these had me laughing. So tell me one, and I'll tell you another.
Yeah. So brain rot for sure. Oxford English Dictionary. Brain rot was the 2024 word of the year. Brain rot is a noun, in case, I know it sounds like it's possibly a verb because it's got rot in there, but it's essentially when you're just mindlessly scrolling or just doing low vibrational stuff that is very like, you're kind of rotting your brain by even consuming this. And so I think this year, I mean, there were moments, given this was an election year in the United States,
Oh my
where
goodness.
you're just like, what are we doing? We're eating the dogs, we're eating the cats. Like, there's just stuff that you're just like, what is happening? And just content in general, reality TV
Yes.
is not going anywhere. I feel like that's a good brain rot activity. Social, of
Yes.
course, good brain rot activity. But I think it's also a distraction when things get a little terrible. You need an
Yeah.
escape. You need a place where you don't have to do very much thinking and maybe can even do nothing in
Yeah.
a place that you're like, yeah, this isn't going to impact me.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting that was
I like that one because it feels so true and so real. I think my brain rot activities are usually like Reddit or scrolling Instagram, watching shows, streaming. I feel like I'm very guilty of that this year. I didn't read as much as I wanted to, but I watched a lot of shows. Uh, and I also think too, brain rot, I feel like is a little related to just like this idea of rotting in bed, which I feel like is definitely in the vocabulary as of this past year. And I'm guilty of that too. So I thought that was a really funny one. I know Cambridge last year had Rizz, which I think is a hilarious word. And I am kept relevant, I think, from a vocabulary standpoint, from talking to the younger generations in career searches and things like that. But also, you having your daughter helps me to keep relevant because
Riz,
otherwise,
Riz,
I would not.
charisma.
Yes.
Oh, really? Is that how we got
Yeah.
there? Okay.
I love it. Well, and the other one I think that is probably well said is Merriam-Webster had polarization as the 2024 word of the year. And I think anytime it's an election year, especially I want to say the last like 3 or 4 elections, I have felt like that's been a pretty good description of where we're at. Hopefully that's we can gain some ground and get back to coming together and not being so divided next year. That would be awesome. It would be cool to have unity or something like that as the 2025 word. But I want to switch gears for a second and I want to ask you what New Year's kind of traditions do you have in your family?
Yeah. So, I mean, vision boards are a thing
Mm.
for me. I try to get my daughter to do them when we can. And it's literally like cutting out magazine collage, like
Mm-hmm.
pictures, words, or just writing words, drawing things,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so my vision board for 2024 is like literally, I keep it at my desk so that I can see it. And I wanted a dog in 2024. I got a dog. And
Yay,
yeah,
puppy.
one of my little pictures is this cute little dog standing on a rock. And just love it or lose it. Reimagine your routine. The power of one. It's about being, not doing. I mean, these are all like phrases on
Good.
my
Yeah.
in conversation. And I feel like just starting these
Yes.
podcasts, like, so I've been doing a small thing is still doing a thing.
Yes.
So these are the
Yes.
things that I'm like, okay, did I do any of this year? Yes, I did. I
Yes.
did. Are there some things here that I'm going to keep? Yes. Are there some things that I can like change and take off? Yeah. So I do love a vision board because I'm very visual. And so
Yes.
it helps me to, um, for me, a vision board is more of a feeling.
Yeah.
There's occasionally maybe there'll be a thing like I put my dog, like a
Yeah.
dog thing there, but
Yeah.
it's not like, for me, it's not like, oh, a big old house or like a
Yeah.
bunch of it's not, I feel like that's the
Not
byproduct
things.
of, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's more so how do you want to use 2024 to
Mm-hmm.
pursue like personal,
Mm-hmm.
professional, like development things. So
Yeah.
vision boards are big for me. In terms of like New Year things, I like to go somewhere in nature in the new year,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's a botanical garden
Mm-hmm.
or I love going if it's Palos Verdes or
Mm-hmm.
Santa Barbara or some kind of botanical garden or taking a hike in
Mm-hmm.
Topanga, like just
Nice.
doing something where I touch grass, honestly, like just get
Yes.
back to nature. Like remember
Yes.
that you are also part of the ecosystem and you
Yes.
also need to breathe and get your central nervous system together.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
I know there's traditions within a lot of people go to the beach
Yeah.
and either do like full moon bonfires
Mm-hmm.
or just in Brazilian culture, there's the Orisha of the sea,
Mm-hmm.
Yemaya, and people make offerings to her every year. There's just so many things you can do, but definitely getting in nature
Right.
is it reminds me that I am like calm down, like
Yeah.
don't sweat the small stuff. Like
Yes.
you are not going to create world peace overnight. Like just go and walk around and
Yes.
breathe.
Yes. I think too, because it comes after so much hectic kind of craziness. We didn't just have the holiday season this year. We had the election and then we had Thanksgiving and now we have Christmas and then the new year. And it's just feels like one thing after another after another. So I agree. I think nature is a big one for me. I like to take a hike. I like to, work up a sweat a little bit. It feels good to feel something physically. And that's something that I like. One of the things that we do, I guess my family did when we were growing up, and I don't know if it's just a my family thing or if it's like a Midwestern thing. It's definitely not a Southern thing, but my mom would make beer cheese soup and she would pop popcorn and we would put the popcorn on top of the soup and we would eat that every year at New Year's. Yeah, so it's just a weird Weiss family tradition perhaps. But are there any foods or things that feel
Oh,
like New Year's to
food.
you?
I feel like we we don't have like a one food thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's more so my family's like, oh, we want nachos or
Mm.
we want I got requested to do my vegan cheesecake this year. They're like, we want
Ooh.
cheesecake. And so it's like food, comfort foods that I
Yes.
don't make all the time,
Yes.
that they're like, we want this. So if it is a lasagna, if it
Mm-hmm.
is, whatever the thing is,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, okay, let me just get in the kitchen. I think because I like to cook, which
Yes.
maybe people didn't know this about me,
Yes.
I enjoy making foods and baking. And it's not always from my own culture. It's like
Mm-hmm.
foods that it's like, ooh, what is this? Can I make this?
Yeah.
And so I just enjoy, we love a good curry in this house, okay?
Ooh,
We
yes.
will
Yes.
make a curry stew and put it over some white rice or some cilantro rice or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I think just taking time to slow
Yeah.
down a little bit is really what the holidays are about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not enough. I feel like it feels like it goes so quick.
Yes.
So it's just like, if anything, it's just doing something that allows us to spend quality time. Quality time and acts of service is my love language, y'all.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what it's about.
I love that. And you're a very adventurous cook. I know you and I were talking about chili onion crunch, which is my most favorite thing in the world from Trader Joe's, and you just picked it up. Have you used it
I
yet?
have. I put it on something yesterday and I was like, oh, this is good. It's got a nice amount of spicy. But then,
Yes.
yeah, the little crunch. It's not, I like spicy, but there's like spicy flavorful and then there's spicy
Yes.
like tear your face off. So
Yes.
I'm like in the spicy flavorful camp.
Yes. Yes.
And I feel like this qualifies.
It does. I feel like it adds like a complexity, but it doesn't. I'm with you. There are sometimes that I will like to go with a really spicy curry or lots of hot sauce or whatever, but I feel like this just adds a lot of dimension. I've been using it in this rice mix that I buy, which is a variety of different types of rice. I just use that. I make it with some concentrated vegetable bouillon. And then after I cook that, I add in some chickpeas to give it the whole protein, right? The complex protein.
Hmm.
And then I use that on top, the chili onion crunch on top of the rice and the chickpeas, and it's so good. Yeah. Well, I think it would be fun just to share also the color of the new year. I don't know if I'm a big color person. I'm actually about to get a big haircut and maybe also do some color, which I'm super excited about. I haven't done that in about a million years. But the Pantone color of the year is pretty interesting. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like color for me is very important. So I'm with you. Maybe I'll institute color of the year this year because
Oh,
I've not ever done that. It's usually just a word. And there's something about color
yes.
visually, emotionally, it does put you in a place.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you told me that, okay, I'm going to get the name of how these people say Patone,
Pan- Pantone. Pantone.
Pantone. Pantone picks a color every year, and it's
hmm
moose brown,
I think it's mocha mousse. Is it mocha
mocha
mousse?
mousse, mocha
Mocha
mousse.
mousse.
Yeah, which
Yes.
is like interesting, interesting color
Yes.
choice.
Yes.
Why do you think this color is the color?
It's hard for me to say. I remember when they came out with it because they always do it towards the end of the previous year. And I think 2024's color was a peach, which I really liked and gravitated towards. I think this is a little bit earthy. I think it's kind of contemplative from a color palette standpoint. I guess when I think about where it fits in the color spectrum, I kind of think about these like modern yet soft kind of subdued hues like this dusty pink and this like peach and maybe like low intensity. It just feels like the intensity has been turned down, which I mean, personally, I wouldn't mind if the intensity was turned down a little bit from a year standpoint. If 2025 was a little bit less intense than 2024, that'd be okay with me. It just feels a little bit like sleepy, calm. Reminds me of the hot chocolate color.
Yes.
I like it. I like it. It's not probably like a color that I would have thought about or chosen. But now that you say this idea of like picking a color, I've been thinking about signature colors. Beth Azor, who is a great, great friend of mine and a super, super role model in commercial real estate, wears red. And anytime she goes anywhere, she's in red and she stands out, and that's her brand and who she is. My signature color is probably green, and we're both wearing green today, a couple shades, which is a funny thing that we didn't plan. So I think I might go with green and kind of double down and figure out what is the shade and try to use that as my signature color for this year.
Yeah. No, I mean, I look at it and it's giving chocolate. This and it, I
Yes.
mean, that's what mousse is
Yes.
chocolate. But
Yeah.
it's, I mean, chocolate for people is very, it's comforting. I mean, I live with
Yes.
two chocoholics, and honestly, like
Yes.
they can put chocolate on chocolate like with everything and can eat it
Yes.
by itself, specifically dark chocolate. And so
Yes.
if we're looking for comfort in these times,
Yes. And sweetness.
and
Sweetness.
sweetness, then
Yeah.
yeah, this is a good color of the year for sure. I feel like now that I'm looking at it, I do feel like this is a very, it does feel very calming, at least a
Yeah.
little more calming. But I would not have suspected that they would have picked this color.
Yeah.
For myself, I have been through periods of red, of
Yes.
burnt orange.
Yes.
I had a turquoise phase at one
Yeah.
point. I was on my turquoise kick. Right now, I feel like I don't know. I'm in a golden hue, like
Oh.
golden colors, or like hues of,
Like sunsetty sort of
yeah. Like,
colors. Nice.
so I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about this.
Yeah.
It's not quite marigold. It's more
Ooh.
like it's got a little. I'm gonna have to find the color, and
Okay.
we're gonna put it in
Yes.
the,
Yeah, let's do that. I think that's so fun.
because
Awesome.
it's like a golden, but it's not like bright
Yeah.
sunshine golden. It's more like a brownish, goldish,
It's got
yellowish.
dimension and
Yeah,
depth
yeah,
and complexity, just
yes,
like you.
yeah, yeah. That's what it's about. So
I
I'm glad
love
we're
it.
talking about colors because yeah, it's my
Yeah.
thing. It's my thing.
Yeah. I hear Poppy's tippy taps in the
Yes,
background. Do you want
Poppy
to
is.
show us Poppy?
Yes, come on, Poppy. You want to come now? Get some attention. She's like, what?
Oh,
I love to be on camera, but oh, he's smelling the mic. How's it going? Oh, okay.
That's
Say
a mic
hi.
check. Oh, I love your haircut, Poppy. You're so pretty.
She's like, what's happening,
She's
guys?
such a good girl.
She is. See, we got green. We got a little green here.
I love it. Look at all
Yeah,
the green.
yeah.
I
So, I
I love
mean,
it.
you've been busy on the pet front as well.
I have been busy on the pet front. I'm a magnet for animals that need help. And my magnet brought me a sad, emaciated, found on the middle of a highway in the pouring rain, a hound dog. And no name, no color, no chip, nothing, not fixed.
Mm,
My neighbor, who has the sweetest heart and also has 2 dogs, 2 kids, and a cat, found her, and another neighbor was going to take her in, and unfortunately she was really sick at the time because she was underweight and she had some other health issues, and my other neighbor couldn't take her in because she had another dog, and I have 2 other dogs, but I was able to kind of shift and take my dogs to daycare so they could play all weekend, and brought Faith into my little camper, and she has been with me a month now, a month and like 5 or 6 days. And I actually just got her sutures out for her spay today. She took off her cone of shame, which has covered my back of my legs in bruises. And she and Atlas and Iris, my 2 other dogs, are just fast asleep, curled up. Actually, now, I don't know if you can see, Iris is behind me.
yeah, yeah. I
She's
see.
right
I see.
here.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to wake them just because they have been
So good.
menaces. Yeah, they've been menaces the last few days. We've had a lot of rain, and so we spent more time indoors, not enough time running around. And because there's been rain, there are mud puddles at the dog park, and these are not dainty, clean dogs. They want to jump and dig and run and play and tackle each other. And so that's what it's been like around here these last few weeks.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so in fostering,
Yes.
how has that been? Can you talk about the progress of Faith?
So, um,
Because I know she doesn't look like she did before, and she seems quite happy now.
oh, yeah, she does not look like she did before. So Faith, when she was found, was 31 pounds. But she's a big dog. She should have been a lot heavier. When I took her in for her spay surgery, she was 49 pounds, which is great. She gained 18 pounds in 25 days, the first 25 days I had her. And then I actually just had them weigh her again, and she's almost 50 pounds. And she, I think, is probably going to be somewhere between 50 and 55 pounds is a healthy weight for her. So she's doing a lot better. The idea was to foster her. She is also very attached. I think it's the abandonment. I've rescued other dogs. All of my dogs have been rescues and had abandonment and other issues. And so I really just want to do everything that I can to get her stabilized and mentally in a good place. And if that means that she stays with me and eventually when I move out onto my land, she comes with too, that's fine. There's really like not a timeline for me.
Oh.
Yeah, she's just
Okay,
a
so
sweet girl.
we talked about your land earlier. We're going
Yeah.
to talk about your land next.
Okay. Awesome. So I guess you can't talk about the land with talking about the last 4 years. So in the summer of 2019, summer of 2020. Summer of 2020, out of the blue, it's the middle of COVID. Things are really bad. My neighborhood has changed a lot. I'm living in Hermosa Beach at the time, 2 blocks up off the Strand. And there are police with AK-47s literally patrolling the Strand and patrolling the sand so people can't go to the beach. Like it was that during COVID. And I got this thought that I should travel. And the rational part of me was like, you can't travel. Like, what are you going to do? And it kept popping up. And it was not just you should travel. It was like, you should get rid of all your stuff and you should travel. And so eventually I got some signs and I said, okay, I'm going to travel. I called my building to say, hey, I'm not going to renew my lease. And they said, that's great. You can't anyway, because we're doing a gut rehab of the entire building. Everybody's out. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. And so I think it was October 4th or 5th. I need to go back and look at my calendar. But one of those days was my last day in my apartment. The month before that, I started downsizing. I went through every piece of paper. I mean, down to like first grade report cards and stuff. I went through everything that I owned and pared it all down. At the time, I had a Subaru Outback. And so all the stuff that I took with me fit in between the front seat and the lift gate. So I had the middle seat just to put my stuff in, and that's all the stuff that I took. So it felt like about 95% of my stuff I either got rid of, donated, sold, gave to friends, etc. And then I started traveling, and I thought I'll do a road trip and I'll do Airbnbs, and eventually it'll stop being fun, right? Because I used to travel for work a lot. And sometimes 2 or 3 weeks in, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to be done. I'm ready to be done traveling. I told myself I'll stop when it's no longer fun. And it just kept being fun. And so 6 months in, I was like, I need more privacy. I need my own space. Airbnbs got really expensive at that time. And then all sorts of weird stuff was coming out too, like people finding cameras in Airbnbs. I'm like, this is just not it. So I decided to trade in my Outback for a truck. I got a tiny teardrop trailer, and I have been doing that ever since, all across the country. And so I have been on the road. It was 4 years in October. Last year, when I started to get sick, being sick on the road was not a great experience. Not a great experience. And so I started to think about, wouldn't it be nice to have a home base? I knew I wanted some land. I knew I'm a huge animal person and a huge nature person. And so I decided that was important to me. And I started just looking around. Initially, I thought Texas, because technically I've been a Texas resident ever since I left California. And Texas just has too severe swings in weather for me. They go from super, super hot in the summer and super humid, sometimes up to 120 degrees. And then in the winter, they also can have some pretty devastating lows, and the power grid is private. And so for all these different reasons, I was like, not Texas, but somewhere like Texas. And I'd spent some time in Tennessee. I really love Tennessee. One of my best friends lives in Tennessee. And so I had stayed on a chicken and goat farm in Tennessee in my camper a few years ago. And it was outside of Nashville in a very small town. I had stayed some other places. And so I just started looking around at land in Tennessee. And a week after my 40th birthday, in March of this year, I bought 7 acres in Middle Tennessee, which is so exciting. It's been a great experience. I am an amateur developer learning a whole lot. We had some tree work done. The next few things to do are to install septic, to run the electric from the road, to dig a well. It's also up in the hills, and it's a wooded lot and very, very beautiful. The dogs are just out of their minds happy when they're there, which is so exciting. And I am working on that project and collaborating with a few people. But my idea is to create a place where women and children can come be in community with animals, with nature. I wanted it to be a place for learning where people can take classes or hold small events as kind of a retreat space. And I just really I grew up all over the place. I lived in 13 different places before I turned 15. And for me, being on a farm and riding horses and being in nature really was my sanctuary. And I kind of just want to create that same sort of sanctuary for people. And so that's what it's going to be about. And it's called Wald Hollow. Hohenwald is the name of the town. And so Hohenwald means high forest in German. And so Wald means forest. And hollow is the formal of holler, which is the space between two hills and a valley. Yeah.
Ooh, I love this. I did not know knew there was meaning, but I did not know meaning. I love this.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm very excited. I'm working on the brand identity for that now, because I want to be able to, have a t-shirt or to put the logo on my truck and to start really making it real in the same way that we did for Women Speak CRE, which is the speakers list and all of that. So it's going to be a big year. It's going to be a interesting year. Lots of learning is coming my way, which I'm very excited about. And two, Back to, kind of what you did this year, I think I am going to be experimenting much more with media and telling this story and documenting and all of the things. So you and I are having conversations here on Work Life Unraveled. I will have my own about Walled Hollow and Women Speak CRE. And you have, what's the name of your new podcast? Tell everybody.
It's called Reimagining Community with
And let's,
Garland. Like, we're going to be
yeah,
talking about the ways community show up within your day-to-day life. I think sometimes we say community and we think it has to look a certain way or feel a certain way
yes,
or sound a certain way. And really, it's just coming together, bringing people together around a shared mission, purpose, cause,
yes,
and enjoying, I think, the process of doing things together.
yeah,
Because we don't do anything in a silo, we do nothing by ourselves.
yes,
And when we get together, I feel like the impact, the power, the transformation, all of that is
yes,
just way more. So I'm
yes,
excited not only for like all of these things in
yes.
2025, but just to be here with you so we can keep doing the thing.
Well, I am so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful for this conversation. And there are many, many more conversations that we're going to be having about work and about life. And so, any last words?
No, we're going to keep unraveling
Yes.
work life. We're going to also keep unraveling the topics. And if there's something you want to hear us talk
Oh,
about,
yeah.
let us know. If there's something that you think, oh my goodness, I too am doing this and I too am going through this, let us know, because
Yes.
this is what it's about.
Awesome. Well,
All right.
thank you so much, and Happy New Year,
Happy
everybody.
New Year.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Work Life Unraveled with Garland and Allison. Have you picked out your own word or your own color for 2025? Hit us up on social and tell us all about it. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next episode.